Welcome to What We Thought Would Happen.
I'm Laura Kightlinger.
I'm Dana Webb.
And we are here with the lovely and talented Beth Lapides.
Yay! Hi, Beth.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
The creator of Uncab and many other things.
Uncabaret.
Uncabaret.
For the uninitiated.
You're right. You're
It's
right.
true.
I know. I have to correct myself all the time.
Uncabaret.
It's 25 or 30 years.
Now it's about 30, I think. I think actually it was probably more than 30. Our 25th anniversary show at the Ace was 5 years ago, November 18th.
Oh, I love
but
that
that was probably not our... It's hard to know where to count from. That's one of the things. And at a certain point, I'm like, more than 25 just sounds too long. So let's just keep it at 25.
Yeah.
We'll just be 25 forever. And... because the beginning of Uncab, should I say?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Because the beginning of Uncab is always hard for me to sort of exactly lock down.
It's Uncabaret.
Uncabaret. Now we can say Uncab. Since it's not terrestrial radio, people are probably listening from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Those are the rules.
Yeah.
So it started at the Women's Building, downtown LA, which was the home of Judy Chicago's dinner party. And it was this super cool little art space. And I was getting a show ready to tour. And I had done the show before. It's called Globomania. And it was just like one of those great audiences. And in the meet and greet afterwards, I said to them, when was the last time you guys laughed? Because it wasn't quite as funny as you thought it was. I mean, you know how some audiences are like, you go, oh, and they're like, that's hilarious. And you're
Yes.
like, no, it's actually not.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and so they're like, oh, we're women and we're lesbians and we're artists. And if we go to comedy clubs, they just make fun of us. So I said to them, oh, I'll make you a show. It'll be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be uncabaret. That was literally how it happened. And I don't know where the word, I mean, it wasn't like I was a cabaret girl.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I don't know, the word, it just popped into my head. So I always have felt like, oh, it was an assignment, you know. And then I did make a show for them there and I didn't really know what it was. I just was like, oh, it's something different. I was so frustrated. So they were ready for it. And I also had been looking for a different way. I'd been going around the comedy clubs in LA going like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. You know, I'm following Andrew Dice Clay at the Comedy Store. There's got to be a better way. You know, there's got to be a better way. But I couldn't figure out what it was. And then here was this audience that was like ready to go. They were like, we can't go there and we want comedy. And I was like, well, maybe this is part of it. So I brought in a bunch of people. Judy Toll was one of them, notably. I can't remember a lot of other people that were in that first thing, which was just like, do something that you can't do in the clubs. I think Judy was still even doing Andrea Dice Clay, honestly. And then we did a few there. They lost their, it was very successful, but then they lost their funding, you know, sad face emoji. And I knew there was something though. I mean, I knew I hadn't quite found what it was. So I think of that as like, even though it was the Women's Building, I think of it as like the insemination of Uncabaret. And then I was like, there's something here. I don't think we've exactly found it, but I feel a lot of energy. So I moved it to Highways Performance Space in Santa Monica, and we moved it to a late night summer, Saturday night run that was me, Taylor, Negron, and Judy Toll. Just the three of us for like a few months.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and that's where I feel like was the gestation, because a lot of what it was going to be was formed, the storytelling, the intimacy, the personal nature, the fact that like it's three things that make, you know, that it's a group that's sort of somehow cohesive, even though it's not like planned out exactly. There were some big political ideas, all these different elements of what would make Uncabaret were established in this, you know, few months of summer at Highways.
Was music a component of those shows?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That comes a little later. And then I took a break to do the First Lady campaign to make First Lady an elected position. She's so important. We should get to elect her, but if we're going to elect her, we should pay her because she's working so hard. That's what it was. She worked so hard, we should pay her. But if we're going to pay her, we should get to pick her. Let's pick her. Let's pay her. So I did this whole campaign, and it was like, you know, media campaign. I was on, you know, news. And I was at the,
it was a legitimate effort to make the First Lady an elected
It was
position?
a legitimate effort to bring the idea to light. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to actually happen.
Sure.
But it was the Clinton election, which was
Right. But also a lot of the first ladies are the ones that bring the appeal to it. I mean, even Robert Kennedy Jr. said his wife is the personality of the campaign.
Yeah.
People forget just really fast that Hillary Clinton was when they were in that whole time, I think more than anyone else had been, was such an object, right? She was a punching bag. She was a joke, just before she even tried to get health care for people, right? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting that it was like coinciding because she was first lady. Anybody was like this weird beacon of attention.
Right then, it was also Hillary and Barbara Bush. I mean, which was such a compare and contrast.
Right. Barbara wrote that book from the perspective of their dog. Do you remember that?
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
It's called like Millie's.
Crazy. Oh, right. Oh, my God.
Oh, jeez.
Invading. There's like Kuwait and Iraq and shit going on.
And the dog doesn't care, right?
Yeah, no.
I'm guessing he just wants a treat.
It's like Millie's breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
my God.
Almighty.
So, yeah. So it was a little bit like you should get to pick who that person is. I also thought if we elected First Lady, we'd have so much broader and more interesting choices of president because single people could run.
Oh, yeah.
Women could be president because, a man wouldn't want to be a first lady necessarily, which I still believe.
Yeah. No.
And so we could have another person in that job.
Sure.
Right.
Anyway, it made a lot of sense and I worked it all out, but it was still, I had a lot of jokes and punchlines. And so it was just to bring it to light. And I did go to the Democratic National Convention. And
The Fleetwood Mac one?
the Clinton one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did Fleetwood Mac play? That was it?
Yeah.
The DNC?
I think so. I have to say I left early because it was so sad. The whole thing was so alienating. I was like, I don't feel good here. And it really smells like hot dogs.
Gross.
You never see that on TV. Like it's hot dogs.
So you went because that's
I went as a journalist.
Okay, gotcha.
But I was talking to people there about it.
Yes.
I was sort of doing a story for a network that was very first person, it was like first person stories. And
that was George Bush, Clinton, and Perot, right? That was that one, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So I like to say I got as many electoral votes as Perot did.
Amazing.
But spent millions less.
That's actually incredible. I think that's amazing.
So, Beth, were you on a ballot or not?
No,
because
I never won. I knew, no, it was a joke campaign. I mean, it was a feminist piece. I mean, more than a political piece, but by saying, we just take this for granted that this person is going to give up their whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
We expect her to. And it's a real job. We need this person.
Right.
There's half of the presidency is this other person. And if the president isn't married, it's always been like, well, there's a niece.
Right. You need somebody that can turn the other way when their husband is fucking an intern.
Exactly.
Someone has to turn a blind eye.
Yes, and that you should be paid for that for sure.
Did you ever read Molly Ivins?
I've read her a little bit, not to quote, but of course enjoyed her like everyone.
Yeah, she to me like shined in that era. I know her career lasts decades, but her like 90s like Bush into Clinton era is like stellar
so
writing.
Strong. Yeah. She was important, very important.
Were you kind of in that? Were you riding that same wave? Or was yours also like with a dose of performance behind it?
It was all performance. It was barely written. It was a lot of media. There was a full page spread in People magazine. There was Interview magazine did a big thing. They brought a baby to the photo shoot.
That's adorable.
And I was like holding a baby. I don't know. They brought a prop baby.
Wow. A live baby?
A live prop baby.
Wow. That's amazing.
How your joke about, hold my baby?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was like, it was almost like that. It was somebody like handing me a baby. It was these great photo shoots. LA Style did this one where we had this giant flag that we painted fluorescent rainbow, and I was nude and wrapped in this flag. And it was so much fun. So, and then I did a lot of TV. I did CNN. So I was invited to do Oprah. Oprah wasn't exactly what she is now.
Yes.
And I was doing a one-person show about this, which is probably the single worst review I've ever gotten was about this show. But I had to say no to Oprah to do this show. I couldn't in my mind. I was so naive as a younger person. In my mind, I was like, I've got a live show booked. How can I do Oprah? I'm doing a show at a 99-seat theater in Los Angeles. I can't possibly do Oprah.
Of course.
And I think they had me with another political comedian, and I was like, I don't know. It's, you live and you learn. But anyway, I did say, there was another factor. Joan Rivers also wanted me. And Joan Rivers wouldn't do it unless it was exclusive.
Wait,
and
talk about that. What do you mean?
Well, it was like you can't do Oprah and Joan Rivers.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Sorry to back up. I'm a psycho. Was this for Joan Rivers, like
talk show,
the daytime or nighttime?
Daytime.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know because I didn't do it.
Okay, yeah.
Because I got bumped from that and had said no to Oprah to do Joan Rivers.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a.
That's not
Wait,
nice.
so you didn't do
Either.
Oh, okay.
But I was invited. So what I'm telling you is it was a media campaign. It was like that. But also it was a big learning lesson about how to navigate publicity and press. But still, CNN, ton of radio, Montel Williams, whatever that means.
That's even more. Because see, Montel Williams never graduated into Oprah League.
No.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what Oprah looked like at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Was all Sally Jesse, that vein.
So it was a lot. So I did do some writing. I wrote a piece for The Realist, if you remember Paul Krasner's amazing paper. He's so important. And, I always like to say his name because he really paved the way for a lot of what is modern comedy. And
also, I want to back up really fast on the Oprah thing because I feel like her guests were not lauded and celebrated until she got to a certain enlightened point, right?
Right.
It was still very tabloid in those. You know what I
thank
mean?
you. You know what, Daniel? You're making me feel so much better about this decision.
I'm telling you because there would have been it was more of a look at this person as opposed to tell us your story.
Yes. Yes.
And so I feel like as opposed to Joan Rivers would have been
amazing as a comedian, of course.
100%.
Right.
That, in my brain, that's the choice I would have made.
Yeah, thank you.
100%.
You know what? You've just really helped me.
No, but I mean that. I do mean that.
You have really helped me, though. I mean it too. I'm not just saying it.
Yeah, she was more sensational. The guy.
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, Jerry Springer.
I did just go down a wormhole of watching Sally Jesse full episodes because A, she's funny. I like Sally, but they're all my kid dresses like a freak, which is so tame now.
Yeah.
But there's so much.
I know everything that seemed so crazy. Now you're just yeah, sure.
But there's a certain look. Do you remember how old people used to look? How grandmothers and everyone they all looked like that. There was an era where your mom would be young but still looked like that. So it's all those kind of moms.
Yeah.
My daughter has pink hair. I'm like, but that's so.
You're 35.
Yeah, you have blue hair. What the fuck? But there's that. I feel like the 80s and the 90s were a real crash of that. You know what I mean? I love seeing the Oscars of the 80s where there's glamorous old movie stars with young Charlie Sheen. There's just this weird clash of.
Well, the 90s, it was so. But I mean, to be kind of loop back because UNCAB started at that time, and then after the First Lady campaign, we went to Luna Park. And Jean-Pierre called and was like, "I'm opening a new club. Do you want to do something?" I said, "I have this show on Cabaret. I'm looking for a place to do it." And he's like, "I don't know. Is it going to be funny?" I was like, "Yes, it's going to be funny." No. He's like, so we booked it for 3 Sunday nights at this new club. Which,
I loved Luna Park.
Oh, it was the most
It used
wonderful.
It used to be on Robertson.
Yeah,
right.
In that incredible room downstairs. And then we ran every Sunday night for 7 years. I mean, from the opening week of that club to the closing week. And, you were there for a lot of it, Laura.
Yeah.
And that group, I mean, it was really there. So that's where I think to get back to your original question of when and the years and how many years, usually start counting from Luna Park, but in truth, it did start at the women's building, but it didn't fully become itself. It had a birth period. I don't see it as maybe that's a feminine way of looking at it, but it's a longer thing, the beginning of something than just like that. So that group that we had, it's so once in a lifetime, that kind of moment, Laura, Margaret, obviously, Julia, Judy Toll, Taylor Negron, Dana Gould, Patton Oswalt, Bob Odenkirk, David Cross, Andy Dick, before
before he was uncaged.
Meryl Marco, Henriette Mantel, Rick Overton, just on and on and on.
I want my really good Taylor story.
Oh my gosh!
I worked at
I got Judy Toll and I exchanged vows on the
that's
Luna
right.
Park
You're
stage.
married.
I miss her.
We miss her every day. Yeah. Oh, Taylor, what's a good Taylor Negron story? Well, anybody listening, there's a lot of Taylor Negron material up on our Spotify channel. We did right after he passed, we did a Taylor Negron album, and we didn't overly clean it up. It was really like what it was like.
He's
at
so
Luna
raw.
Park.
All of it. What I've
He
seen.
was so funny because he'd be raw, but then so this great example of Taylor Negron, and I love this. Oh, so did you ever hear him tell the monkey story? Mm-mm. So he had this story that was the monkey story. So the thing of Uncab, for people who have yet to experience it, please come so we can close it. We were waiting for you. The one rule. People were talking about the rule, and I did an interview with Bob Odenkirk recently, and he was like, I don't think the rule was ever actually told to me. But what I understood it to be was people would repeat it as you can't repeat material. But that wasn't 100% the case. The idea was to be in the now and not do your tight 10 and be storytelling and be personal and just be in the now, in your current story. And if you had to say something that you had said before, fine. And the way the back mic ended up evolving was people would be in new material. I always think of this example. Julia was telling a story about when she was getting to something else, and she happened to mention when she was 14 and her house burned down. And I was like, what? When you were 14 and your house burned down? And that became her set. But always that back mic was a way to dive in.
Beth has saved many a set from me at the Uncap. Like, I'll just start going off and on. She'll ask a funny question that leads to something really good. And I was like, I think too, if you're on stage and it's new stuff, you're not thinking, oh, this might not make sense. You know,
right.
Like their questions.
You always never hear your own questions. That's why you need to talk to people.
Right.
That being said, Taylor had this story that was like this crazy Marx Brother type story where his parents bought him a monkey. It was his uncle from the Circus Vargas. And the monkey was in the house, and it was his cousin Chuck Negron. And the monkey was jerking off in the fur coats in the parents' bedroom, and it running up a telephone pole at one point and chasing the monkey. It was really like Three Stooges-esque.
Yeah.
And then maybe at like Luna Park, he tells the story. So over the course of the years, and Uncab, has had numerous residencies, about 10 residencies of 7 to 1 years around Los Angeles. When we were at O'Lock downtown in that beautiful speakeasy room, it was near the end of Taylor's life. And he revisited this story many times, both with us, and he'd written it out and done it in storytelling shows and put it one time. He really wanted this monkey, and the monkey meant something. And of course, in comedy, a monkey story is almost archetypal. When you talk about the monkey, you are talking about yourself. I just think of Dana going, "I'm just a dancing monkey."
Yeah.
There's a moment in the story, the last time I heard him tell it, where he says, and then I held the monkey in my arms and I looked deep into the monkey's eyes. And I knew unconditional love for the first time. I'm getting chills as I say it. And how that story changed from this Three Stooges episode to a transcendent religious experience.
And that monkey was whom? No, wait. We also, Beth, Chuck Negron was in Three Dog Night, right?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
Do you know why they call it Three Dog Night?
I don't.
Because that's how cold you could tell it was by how many dogs you kept in the bed. So a really cold night was a God. 3-dog night. Right?
That's great. But so wait, did the monkey live? I mean, did he get to keep the monkey? I don't give a shit about any of it. I just want to know if the monkey's okay.
They had to give away the monkey.
Can I take him home? Where is he? Is he in an old monkey's home?
Speaking for the animals.
He's at the Knickerbocker.
I'm going to have to go. Okay, I'm going to take care of the monkey. I'm taking him out of the animal shelter.
That's amazing. He does have that arc, though. In the pieces I've watched, I've never met him or saw him, but he does do that, where he has some, not every time, but he does have that tenderness.
Well, as you would have known him later in his career, I guess I'm saying the way an artist can change, that, he didn't have that tenderness when he told that story at Luna Park. It was just funny. He never would have gone to that moment.
Right.
And in some ways, that is a teaching story that I use with clients, because I say, you change and the same story evolves. It's not that it's a different sequence of events, but it is a different story.
A song changes meaning 20 years later.
Yeah,
30 years
when you
later.
see a performer sing that one anthem that they've been singing a million times, and how it feels like just completely different to hear Joni Mitchell sing Both Sides Now as a 20-year-old and as an 80-year-old.
Did you see her live, Joni Mitchell, or have you seen her live?
Okay, I've been to her house a few times.
Oh my God! What?
I own a cigarette that she left in our car.
Oh, I was my friends have like when Henry in the 90s when Henry Rollins did like a poetry tour. My friends have his bottle cap, and she carried it in her purse. I'm all about it. What kind of cigarette is it?
Okay, well,
what brand?
It's an American Spirit, obviously. And first we were invited to one dinner, Mitch and I, and it was up at Sunset Plaza. In fact, this is tender. I had plans with Taylor that night, and we were invited last minute to have dinner with Joni Mitchell. And I was like, I'm sorry, I have to. And he was like, well, can I come? And I was like,
you can't.
You can't. And it was near the end of his life, and I've always felt so bad.
No, but it's one of those things, though. You can't.
That's a touchy. That's a really touchy thing. Like, who's gonna die first? I think it's gonna be Joni Mitchell. That question.
It's Oprah or Joan all over again.
Choices, decisions. So you need to decide. This was my book.
Hysterical.
So,
but you really can't do a +1. The +1 is such a
I
thing.
was already a +1.
Exactly.
I was a +1.
Exactly.
Oh, because Mitch knew her. He'd worked with her
No,
before.
a friend of Mitch's knew her.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And invited Mitch and me also.
Yeah, it's your second cousin twice removed.
Yeah.
You can't do
So
it.
okay.
I was invited, but I wasn't invited. I was too far out in the invitation.
Yeah.
So it was, you can bring Beth. Well, not you can bring someone.
But he had to ask. Not
Of course
to
he
get
did.
in.
Of course he did.
Of course he had to ask.
Of course. And I wish I could have.
Sure.
So we get there, and it's one of those outdoor, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but up in Sunset Plaza, and it's outside so she can smoke. And
Oh my God.
it's
Wow.
a table of
Love it.
about, I'm going to say 10, maybe 12. And she's seated in the middle, and I end up being seated exactly across from her.
Oh.
Now, all I said to Mitch when we got out of the car was like, I'm not going to say anything. Just like, all I'm going to do is not say anything. That's my entire goal tonight. And
Like, where do you begin?
where do you begin? What can you possibly say?
Right.
Phoebe Bridgers' second album was called Punisher, and I didn't actually know the word for it before she said. Anyway, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be a Punisher.
Yeah.
So anyway, Joni. So dinner, chit chat. Then Joni starts telling stories, and as her album, all her songs would indicate. Like an amazing storyteller. And she's worked on these stories. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, these are stories. She's told these stories before. So she's telling, and then she's like, oh, it's too much. And then everybody goes, no, tell another one.
Yeah.
And they're so good, of course, Court and Spark, So, and at one point in the second story, there's somebody who reaches out his hand to her. And in that point of the story, she reaches out her hand to me as him and holds my hand and is looking at me. Now, because of Uncab, I'm a great listener. I mean, I am a professional listener and I'm laughing. And so she's loving it because I'm like a professional listener.
Yeah.
And she's telling me the story and the thing. And then she gets up to smoke a cigarette. She pats me on the back, on the head. She's like patting me on the head. I'm like, I cannot. And this is happening at one of the lowest points of my life. Yeah. So much bad stuff is happening in my life. I'm divorcing, bankruptcy, literally the whole thing is happening. And Joni Mitchell is patting my head, and I am like, God is telling me that everything is going to work out through Joni Mitchell. She is God right now telling me everything's all right. Anyway, we have this great night. And there is a part of it where her friends are like, but you could be on Uncab and tell stories. And Beth could help you with your book. Because she, there was a part of that happening. And I'm trying to not be too pushy about it. But I'm also knowing I could really help her. She keeps saying, I can't get my voice in the book. I can't get it in the writing. And I'm like, I know I could really, really help. And I love her so much and I really could help. And, whatever. It didn't happen. She had one night was supposed to come to Uncab and had a stomach ache or, whatever.
Sure.
Anyway, I guess we were okay because we got invited again to another, this time to the little door, to a thing. And there was, celebrities and things. I wasn't sitting near her and whatever. And then we got invited again to like another restaurant in Beverly Hills. And then this one, we're all going to go to her house afterwards.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that beforehand?
No.
Okay.
But she wants to smoke in the car and she can't smoke in that car that she came in. So she's going to drive with Mitch.
Oh my God, yes.
So, of course, I open the door. She gets on the front seat. She's smoking.
I love it.
Okay.
Are you a smoker or did you ever smoke?
I did ever smoke, but I'm not a smoker.
Okay, same.
Yeah,
same. But I love it.
But I'm fine.
Yeah, okay,
but
same.
we're not. Whatever. Who cares? She could do anything
Exactly.
she wants.
Yes.
She wants to ride naked. She wants us to go to Alaska. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
sure.
taking Mitch's car. Let's
Whatever.
go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
What do I have to cancel? What do I have to do?
Yeah, she's not like a Sylvester Stallone who shits in tubs at hotel rooms. Yeah, we found that out, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was asked not to come back to this hotel because he kept going to the same like 5-star hotel and shitting in the tub.
What?
Okay, opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
But
Maybe it was the dog.
What you're saying, Beth, is it would be all right with you if Joni Mitchell said, "I'm going to have to crap
Shit in the
your
tub.
car." Yeah.
Question though.
Because it would be okay because she'd never say it.
So you get back to go back just really fast. You get invited like the second time and the third time.
Yeah.
Is that even? You're like, now what do I say?
No, now I'm just like, there's always going to be 20 people there. Where it's not like,
Gotcha.
you've been somehow included in the fun posse for a minute. You know, this isn't going to last.
Sure.
You know, it's not going to be like, you're never going to become
You're
like,
not in the will.
you're not, you're never going to become close. But it's like an opportunity to be around something. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And you're just going to enjoy this gift.
Yeah.
Right.
Famous people live in orbits.
Yeah. And you're going to be in the orbit for a while and you just appreciate it. Sure. And I did. And so, but she did smoke and an ash fell on the seat. Fell on the, the carpet. And we got back into the car. I didn't know that, but we got back into the car to go home and I saw this ash. We didn't touch the ash. We never cleaned the ash. That ash lasted about 9 months or something. Finally just blew away. Yeah. But she also left an American Spirit pack with one cigarette in it.
Amazing.
That I have left on my bureau ever. It's this Joni Mitchell cigarette and it's a touchstone because I should have it framed really.
Yes.
Because it's just this like memory. But
what
then
color pack?
It's a yellow pack. And there is one final then came New Year's and Mitch was in New York doing his Sandra Bernhard shows and I had a cold and my place was so freezing cold and I don't know, it was just like I'm really feeling I was in a little bit of a pity pool. And the phone rang and it was her friend that had invited us, Charles. And he said, "Oh, what are you doing tonight? Do you want to spend New Year's Eve with me and Joni?"
Wow.
And we went to this beautiful dinner in Beverly Hills. And she literally, it was just the three of us.
Wow.
And she literally told me like everything. The problem is that I am the in the now person who doesn't remember like historical detail.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there literally going like, oh my God, try to remember one thing. Remember one thing she's telling you. And all I could do was experience it, barely remembering any of it, but having the experience. And then we went back to her house and we sang and I made her laugh with singing. And I have to say, it really was transformative. And I'm so grateful. If Joni, maybe you're listening.
Yes. Does she
I'm super grateful.
Does she play the piano at home or anything?
She did them for us.
Yeah.
Mitch did get to play her piano, which, was beautiful.
Amazing.
And,
Mitch was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that night, but we had gone other nights to her house. And,
Mitch is, by the way, a legendary piano player, and also he's a composer, correct?
He is. Mitch, that'd be Mitch Kaplan, if you're Googling.
With a K.
He has had such a multi-tracked, tiered, I don't know, music, all the areas of music, multi-hyphenated, I guess, because he's a songwriter, gold record. I'll say, but your gold record. He said, "Oh, Beth, everyone has gold records." And I'm like,
That's not true.
That's not true. That's actually literally
that
not
is
true. Literally. So he is a songwriter and for years and the publishing deals and, all that. Then he has toured with Sandra around the world and done Broadway with her and at TV, et cetera, et cetera.
We're talking about Sandra Bullock, by the way.
No, Bernhard.
I know.
How? So what you've been does the word curator, do you recognize yourself in that word?
Yeah, I love that word. word for on Cabaret to be, I do consider myself a producer, though I didn't at the beginning. I do consider it curation, what I do.
Because also, I mean, you were talking about you have clients now because you're doing coaching. You really work. You don't just book people on Cabaret. Like you shape a show.
Thank you.
But you
It's
work
true.
on it.
Yeah, I really work on it. And I have, from the beginning developed systems of who would go with who and what kind of, what's too much of something. And I really think about the ride and what would be great for a performer, because as a performer, you don't want to perform with people. There have been very few, but occasionally I'm like, that person's too much like that person.
Yeah.
You always want everyone to shine as, exactly themselves. And most times that would be hard to not have, because most of the people that, including both of you, who we work with, there is no one really like them. I mean, they're so that's what I'm always looking for, is the idiosyncratic performer, the person who can't be replicated, the person who nobody's like them. And partly, it's so simple, is the rhythm of their voice. It's funny, when we were editing audio, there was a lot of audio of Uncap, obviously, from the day.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of audio editing. I would be in one room, like far away, and the audio would be going. I could tell who it was just by the vague sound of it.
Right, the rhythm.
The rhythm, just the tonality and the rhythm. And that is so not true of stand-up. The rhythm is so much the same. And so when people say what's different about Uncap, I sometimes just say everybody's in their own rhythm.
When did you first meet Laura?
Wow, that's a really good... Who introduced us?
I think...
Was it Henriette?
Oh, probably.
Or did you introduce me to her?
No.
Was it at an Uncap show?
It had to be Henriette. Yeah, and I think it was Luna Park, right?
It was Luna Park, yeah, for sure. Pretty early on in Luna Park.
Julia Sweeney was just here and was also waxing super nostalgic for Luna Park.
Oh,
so...
it was a magical room. Partly because, I mean, I have a few things. There were a few reasons. Well, number one, the 90s, when we didn't have cell phones. And everybody could say everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We said everything. We named names. You talked about your family in ways that you knew they would never hear. You, everybody, I mean, I mean, people who were in the show would talk about other people in the show that they had broken up. Greg and Janine.
Oh, God.
You know, that whole breakup. David Cross and Greg Barrett were roommates. I mean, it was very, like, chatty that way. People would have meetings with executives and name the executive.
Do you remember when I put my hand on the ceiling and I cut my hand and it went all the way down?
Oh, my God. No, I don't remember that.
No,
Oh,
okay.
my God.
But that
Are
was
you
fun.
okay?
Oh, totally.
That was fun.
It was actually really funny. I mean, I think scary and funny.
But it was those low ceilings partly that
Right.
were like, you know, the perfect comedy room, the lowest possible ceiling.
Right.
And then also, I always talk about this, the architecture of that venue was that, you know, you went upstairs to get into the dining room and then you would go through a door. So you already were like closed off. And then you would go down a flight of stairs. So you were like descending into the subconscious. And then you faced a mirror, like you faced your ego self. And then you, at the landing, and there was a giant crystal chandelier above your head as if it was heavenly and magical.
Yep.
And then you turned the corner and went down into the room. And then do you remember that people would sit on the stairs like, you know, performers?
Sure, yeah.
Because the room would be packed and, you know, people would sit on the stairs and you would descend into this privacy, you know, this very safe, like basement room. Mom and dad were somewhere else, you know, it was very, very like that.
I think on cabaret shows are always packed, though. I mean, I feel like...
Well, it is not always true. I mean,
Really?
we've
Well,
over
El
the years,
Cid.
yeah, we've done well.
Yeah.
You know, when I see that a room isn't going to be filled, I start inviting people because I'd rather have that. But it's nice. This is a funny Judy Toll story, which I know you love your Judy Toll stories. So Judy Toll would come in, and most of the time we were really, Luna Park was full and often turned away. But we ran for 7 years.
Yeah.
And there was a little lull right after Comedy Central did their alternative comedy show, which wasn't on Cabaret because they wanted to do on Cabaret, but they didn't want me to host it.
Which was terrible.
And so I said no. and also maybe a mistake. We're talking about all my decisions.
we
Was
thought
it a
would
mistake?
happen.
Wasn't it a mistake? Was it a
Yeah.
mistake? Was it a
Right.
mistake? I go back and forth. Anyway.
But it's hard. Okay, can we talk about that just for 1 second? And I want to say
And then
right
I want to
there.
go back to the Judy Toll story.
Okay, Judy's whole story. I don't know if people understand that there are all these crazy decisions that you have to make, and some of it, your life doesn't hang on it, but you go back to it all the time.
There are
because-
turning points. There are turning points
Yes.
in your
Right,
life.
right.
And for instance, like 13 years ago when I revisited that decision, I thought, why didn't anyone tell me that I could have sold it? I could have made so much money. I could have just done a different show. And I could have been an executive producer. I had William Morris agents. They never said that.
But it's
know,
like you
I
think
mean-
that's your ticket, that concept of like this is the thing, right? As opposed to it being like a tapestry or something, you know.
And you don't think that someone else is just going to go do it. It's your thing.
Also
Try to
that.
do it,
Invented
yeah,
it.
and steal
Right.
it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But then
But
now,
that's Comedy Central too. They're
I
pretty.
mean, a bit,
and then
yeah.
it was bad, and so people were like, "Oh, I don't even like alternative comedy," and so we suffered from that show in our live shows. But also, then 13 years later, from thinking that, I think, oh, but if I had sold it, it wouldn't still be Uncab, and I wouldn't be all the good that it's done since then, and it wouldn't have the life it had now because it would have become this other thing on TV, and I would have gone on to something else, and maybe it wasn't a mistake. So and also mistakes aren't the worst thing in life.
Well, and is it even a mistake? It's just a choice you have to make.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if other industries have so many tangents. Where,
So many
you know what I mean?
choices
Where
all
you're
the time.
Oh,
and,
Choices.
and if you don't do one thing, and maybe you know what I mean, it's all.
I
that.
feel like we make so many decisions. I want to come back to exactly
Yes,
the spot.
okay.
This Judy Toll story is so small.
Okay, go for it.
Judy would walk into the room and go, I don't want to leave listeners hanging. What was the Judy Toll story they never got to? Judy would walk into the room and she'd go, how's the house tonight? And I'd go, I don't know, Judy, it looks a little light. And she goes, oh, good. It's going to be a great show. And I always think of that, how like we automatically think, oh, it's better if it's full. But Judy was right in a lot of ways because the smallness can really bring kind of intimacy as long as you don't put something on the audience. Like you've got to carry the weight of a big audience with your smallness. You don't need to pretend to be big. You're small. You are who you are. This is who showed up tonight, just in acceptance and joy.
And more things might come out if you feel like it's very intimate.
Yeah.
It's just a few people. I'm going to go ahead and say that, whatever I want.
So there were, she was right about that. Okay, so to go back to decisions.
I just love that. You need to tell more men that like small things don't need to be big.
There you go.
do not need to be big. You just come as you are. You hear that, boys? Anyway, sorry.
Perfect.
But
So to go back to the decisions.
Can I add? I have to add one thing about Judy. This is just something I think of all the time. She said that we're always looking for work. And in her case, she said, when I actually get an audition or get a job, doing stand-up, I think, okay, I can't wait till this is over. What will I do when this is over? How will I reward myself when this is over?
yes.
Well, you know what? We did finally do a Comedy Central special, and Andy Dick, in one of his great moments of performance. He did do.
He's an incredible performer. Andy Dick. Yeah.
I saw him live in '99 or something. He was on a tour. I saw him at TC, which is hysterical. I saw him at Texas Christian
Wow.
University.
Oh my God.
What?
100%. And it was his live tour. It was wild.
Yeah, wild. He did this one thing on that special that I do think of all the time, which was the idea of getting things behind you. I want to, I have to do my taxes so I can get it behind me so I can go on and die. Or the whole idea of like, I have to finish first grade so I can get it behind me so I can go on. The whole idea of like, we do the same idea that what Judy's saying, a different articulation of it.
It's funny. I was thinking about my father was married to someone else. My mom was his mistress and I was their kid. And when I did see my dad, which wasn't very often, well, first of all, I always ask about my half sisters and brothers, which he didn't want to say anything about. And so he'd say, why can't we just enjoy the time that we have together right now? And I said, okay, when should we start?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting, Laura, because in a way that's almost like gaslighting you with being present.
Right.
Yeah. It's like you have every right to want to know your context.
Right.
You're asking for context.
Sure.
And he's saying, why do you need context? You just need to be here now. And I think there's so many memes or tropes of like new ageism that can be used against our mental health. And that's one of them.
Right. And I think too, it was like, be here now with somebody I don't really know and haven't gotten to know after my whole life.
Yeah.
Like 17 years. Well, I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your kids. I don't know anything. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to try and enjoy whoever you are right now.
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Unless
so
you have
unfair.
a time machine
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can really fuck this relationship
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
There'll be a thing like I recently saw like, oh, walking on your tiptoes is like an ADHD thing.
It is?
Oh.
Shut up.
And I was like, my nickname as a child used to be Tippy Toes. I mean, people would just call me Tippy Toes. I was constantly walking around on my tiptoes, which is actually, you know, people always make fun of me. You're always in high heels. Why do you always wear high heels? But I got used to that feeling as a child, which is like an ADHD thing.
I have a
I had
primitive.
no idea.
I have a great memory, number one, but like at the old house, which we moved out of in like 80, whatever, 5, who cares, with my great grandmother who was born in 1895, that old bitch. But she was so concerned with how much I was walking on my toes. And yes. And I remember there was an orange chair. She's in the corner. I remember I'm just a fucking like 2 years old, right? And the shades. I remember playing with the curtain and tippy-toeing around, and that was back and forth, back and forth. And that was the thing. She was worried about me.
Tippy
being on my
Toes. Is that the name of this episode? Tippy
Yes.
Toes?
That should be Beth. That was producer thinking ahead. Absolutely.
Not to self-diagnose and self-medicate, but we
She
were
said, and then there became, actually, that's probably what became the term light in the loafers.
see, no, these do the thing.
I want his heels on the ground. If not, he's probably going to be gay.
Yeah.
I jumped out of a tree and landed 100 different ways, but the last way was backwards on my wrist, and that did leave me limp-wristed, which I think is so fucked up. I'm like, that is not cool.
Was it meant to be?
It was, yeah, which came first? Like, who falling out of the tree made me gay? I super am obsessed with Marilyn Monroe's relationship with her acting coach, because it's historically, or legend tells, is that she would do a take and just turn to her coach instead of the director, right?
Right.
And get that sort of a thing. But it's like there's a lot of mental situations. I don't know how to stack it, but
Yeah.
we're all fucked up.
Yeah.
That you have to work through when you're working with someone as a coach
Yeah.
and see what's interference, what's
Yeah.
part of the mental collaboration of this.
Yeah. I am not an actor's coach, just,
Right,
you know.
right.
I mean, I have had people who act as, you know, part of their, you know, big palette, but nobody has. Once or twice, people have mistakenly called me in as an acting coach. I mean, it's not my forte. Really writing, you know, I have a thing that I used to do called You But Funnier, which was kind of very on cabaret, how to do that kind of comedy. But a lot of it, what I was going to say, is decision making. I did an audiobook last year that's called So You Need to Decide. If you like listening to podcasts, you might enjoy So You Need to Decide. It was on one of Vulture's best comedy books of the year.
That's
Variety said, great storytelling, a potentially life-changing treasure.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it
and
was-
Beth, these were your tips to other people?
No, I had the opportunity to do an original audiobook, and what would it be? And then I thought, well, we're headed into an election season. It was like 2 years ago, and the word decision was, you know, like in, you know, neon. I was like, decision making. That's like all of life. Wait a minute. I
Right.
have like these 8 habits of highly creative people. Decisions, number one.
Right.
So the idea of the book was I would talk about my own decisions, tell the stories of my own decisions, but then I interviewed like 20 people, and we talked about their decisions in family, work,
Is it
spirituality.
were they excuse me, comics or just
Many comedians. Bob Odenkirk is in it. Julia. I don't know why we never connected on it. I'm sorry.
I couldn't decide.
You couldn't decide, yeah. Margaret is in it, but also like Phoebe Bridgers is in it, and Scott Frank, who wrote Queen's Gambit, is in it, and Isaac Mizrahi, and Sandra Bernhard, and you know, it's a bit, it's a like a so like there's a chapter on work and a chapter on love and a chapter on spirituality, moving, and family.
Amazing.
And you know, it's my story quilted in with their stories, so it's like the thing that closest to maybe This American Life kind of, you know, the way he quilts those stories together. I love that. It's a little bit like that.
Oh, cool.
And I do talk a lot about the Uncabaret story. It was the first time like I dove in as like how Uncabaret was really my family, and the decision not to have children, how that sort of dovetailed into the decision to do Uncabaret and like that. Anyway, it really got me thinking about decisions as what is decision making. You know, the word decision comes from a word that means to cut off, and it's a similar word to like suicide and homicide, that side part of decide. And there's a certain like violence to decision making.
Yes.
That
A finality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially in this age where we have to decide so much, it's part of why we have decision decision exhaustion because you're like literally cutting off a possibility.
Is that a Latin thing?
Yeah, it's a lot. You know,
Yeah.
I'm such a like etymology whore. I mean, if I'm thinking about something, I'm just going to etymology.com like morning, noon, and night, which is
I love
like,
that
what do you
phrase.
think? See, look in your heart, Beth. Why do you have to look at etymology.com?
The root word goes to the thought.
Yeah,
Like it does.
it does.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like it's in this. It's woven in.
It just is.
Now I think the word should be dissevering.
Right?
Dissever.
Put it into
like that.
perspective.
I love that dissevering.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so
That's fascinating because, like, what choices did you have to make that weren't like eat, sleep, live, die, work for the king?
I
or
mean, that's
whatever?
also, that's something that with what we thought would happen, the show title is, it isn't necessarily decisions, but it's like, okay, you go into something, especially like being a performer, and you think, well, this is going to be great. I'll be famous. I'll be rich. I'll be this or that. You know, that's what you think will happen. And that's why you go into it. You don't think, oh, maybe I'll slide along for 40 years and just be able to pay my rent. You know what I mean? It's not,
Right.
it's never, you don't think that.
or another way that it can happen, which is, I think, I think for me, I thought, you know, I was so driven by the creativity, you know, like just the need to express myself.
the artistic life.
That would carry it. You know, that I think fame, like I didn't necessarily ever think about like success in terms of finances when I was a younger person. I never made money decisions. I always was just like, well, you know, you just follow the art, you know?
Yeah.
And
It's not. I've never made money decisions either, and not until I think I was in a studio apartment eating peanut butter on my 26th birthday did I say, I think I really need a job. I can't pay my. You know, my rent was like, I had a rent control place that was like $800, and I'm sorry, $400, and I couldn't afford that. But anyway,
But then it was interesting at Uncab for me watching, you know, there were so many people becoming wildly successful. I mean, to watch Kathy Griffin launch out of it and Bob and David and this, I mean, so many people so successful. I mean, a lot of people were successful coming in. Like Bob talks in the book about the decision to leave Saturday Night Live and come to LA with nothing. And it is a great story. And how he made that decision. Super compelling. And it was really hard for me as host of this thing. And I had never really thought like, oh, what is the financial model of this? I mean, even now on Cabaret is like, I'm very grateful it's in the black. It supports itself, but it's not like a financially great decision for me, except I love it. And I meet everybody I love. You know, it's nurturing and
you're great. You are a very spiritual person because, like, you're not a grudge holder because you could have been angry about Janine doing the uncap thing, the show.
I wasn't angry, but I was upset.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, oh yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
I was so naive though that I literally picked up the phone and, you know, was like sobbing and calling her and like, how could you do this? She was like, it's not Uncap, it's like the A-list. And that's probably what she believed, you know. It was like at this point, you know, Jeannie and I have talked and whatever, it's all fine. It's water under the bridge, everything unfolds in perfect and divine order. I mean, I am there now and I do believe that. But it wasn't that I was mad at her even then. I don't really talk about this. You guys are getting the, you know, I was raw. I was confused. I did feel betrayed. Not necessarily. I just felt betrayed that people were doing. Everybody did it. Everybody. It was like.
I
but
didn't.
I understand.
I did not
Laura
do
did
it.
not do it. Laura didn't.
I'm stick with the original.
You know, and it was hurtful, but then also I think more it was to myself. You know, most of the feeling was like, why can't I figure out a way to, and not just that show, like the whole thing, how everybody kept like found ways to like become a successful touring comedian or have a TV show or be, you know, all the ways that people were launching out of it. I was still just doing it. I did finally have that radio show, which was an amazing job.
Right.
And lasted only for a year and then I was stuck again. And then no momentum, you know, it was like I paid so much for 1 year and then it was like, now what?
But there is a real, in moments like that, especially when like project oriented, right? Because you can be super involved in something and then the whole thing can move on without you. And you're like, there's this weird guilt, there's betrayal, There's what did I do wrong? There are all these weird things, and none of those are really the answer. But you go through this fucking head game.
I mean, you keep being given the same problem until you understand what you need to learn.
Yeah.
So, if you come to any experience with, which I didn't when I was that age, but I do try to now, not always immediately. If you come to every experience with this isn't being done to me, but being done for me, then everything is unfolding in divine and perfect order because everything is there. I mean, I am such a good girl, A student.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to be. I mean, I went through bad girl years and, all my years, but in the end, I do like an assignment.
I do feel UNCAB is there's no assignment, but there is an assignment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's order to it.
Yeah, you do have to have read the
memo.
paperwork.
Beth, I ask everyone what they were like in high school. Were you the president of groups and stuff in high school? I mean, were you kind of like a leader in high school or unpopular or popular?
Okay, high school. I went to a real small school. I was I don't know what we called it, president head, in charge of only person who cared, of the film club.
Oh.
And I made silk screened little film club membership cards, and I worked with
this?
in New Haven, Connecticut. Well, the school was Hampton, Connecticut, but New Haven.
Okay.
Wow.
And I got really close to my film teacher, who also turned out to be the first person I knew who died of AIDS. So sad, Richard Humans, such a gift. And I won the writing prize, and I was a dancer. It was a small school, though.
Look, you were at home. Just say it. You were at home. You were homeschooled. I read this thing where this kid didn't graduate from homeschool, and I was like, why? Did you not make it to the living room?
Yeah. How did you? Did you sleep through graduation?
Oh my God.
No, that's right. No,
So I was, I think I was a rebel always, there was a prom, I didn't go. There was, I don't know, arty, writer. But it was a small enough school that being that person didn't turn you into an outsider. So that's who I was.
What was your film interest at such a young age?
We didn't have now everything's available.
Right.
You
Right,
can
right.
watch anything.
Right.
But in those days, there was a film catalog that you took home and you looked through it and you decided what movie to order. And then they'd send you the movie. Literally, they'd send you the canisters.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the little, in the little room for the 20 people in your school who cared, you put it in the projector and you screen the movie. And also, my English teacher, Jane Cohen, was teaching us incredible books. I mean, we were reading Jane Didion, Native Son. I mean, we were reading all sorts of books that were I remember reading Gertrude Stein in high school. And it was 3 lives. And it was a weekend assignment. And I remember reading Gertrude Stein and going oh my God, finally somebody who writes the way I think. I mean, I was she's the best writer in the whole world. This is the easiest thing for me to read. I'm whipping through it like it's a beach read, you know? And I go in, I didn't talk to anybody that weekend. I don't know why. And it just didn't end up talking to anybody about it. And I go in on Monday, so excited. Can you believe, Gertrude Stein? And everybody's just what the fuck is this book? This is the worst thing. And and that might have been one of my first moments of realizing oh, you're different. Even amongst this it's chosen group, mildly elite, even among these people of learnedness, you are a freak.
I think The Road is the only thing I've ever read in a day, and because it was so depressing, I couldn't put it down.
The Road. I just
Cormac
the
McCarthy.
3 Lives. It's a very small book. Yeah.
What brought you to LA?
Well, Connecticut to Brown.
Okay.
Brown back to New York. I always knew I was going to go to New York. From the time I was 12, my dad worked in New York. He commuted some, and I spent time in New York as a child, and I was always obviously this is where I belong. I mean, what I was in high school was really counting the days until I could get out. I was just when can I go? Can I go now? Can I go now? Can I go now? Can I go now? Where can I go during the subway? Well, anything, just everything.
I felt that way too. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here.
Gotta get out.
Mine was just Texas. That was
okay.
really
You just gotta get out of Texas.
Oh,
yeah.
And that took forever.
Well, I knew I wanted to get out to New York, but it was definitely a big I gotta get out.
Where did you live in New York?
Well, first I lived in Williamsburg, and I was one of the pioneers of that neighborhood.
Sure.
I lived across the street from the diner that then was the diner in Two Broke Girls.
I'm sorry.
But so it was like a very early loft experience. But I was, one of the stories of my life is like a little too ahead, a little too far. I'm just trying to be in my time now.
Right,
and it was like Williamsburg was literally I moved to New York the day the last loft in downtown Manhattan was taken. I arrived and they were like, "Oh, Beth, I'm sorry. We just rented the last one out."
Yeah.
And so, you start looking and, Williamsburg, just across the bridge. It's just across the bridge. It's just one stop across. And you're like, I guess, all right. And we got this loft. I was with somebody I had gone to school with. And it was in the medical offices of, I forget the company. Anyway, who cares? Anyway, we did the loft. I didn't know how to build a thing. We learned how to build walls and do plumbing.
Wow.
We did the whole thing.
Whoa.
I mean, and it wasn't built well, but I mean, I did learn. It was a thing. It was kind of amazing. And Robert Hall, that was the name of the company. And the jingle on the radio was, "When the prices go up, 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 and the value goes down, down, down." Robert Hall was something like that.
It was a clothing store?
It was a factory. It was the factory.
Because that was the upscale small store in my hometown. It was called Robert Hall.
Oh, yeah. Well, this was the factory that made those clothes.
Wow.
So there was, but it was now closed. It was closed and empty.
That's amazing.
Laura's mind is blue.
It was like, 6 floors of empty like loft space. And then
Amazing.
next to it, attached to it, was like the
geez.
offices. There was a bank on the front floor and then there were 3 floors up. And we lived on the floor that was the medical offices to Robert Hall. So it was kind of nice already. It was a loft, but it wasn't like completely raw. And there was a bathroom already in and, but we got to go into the empty warehouse.
Oh, wow.
To scavenge for materials. There were these 2 drunk guys who were the like maintenance guys for the building. I wish I could remember their names. Willie and something. It was Willie and something. And they had an office in the basement and they were always drunk. And they would, we would go down there. They loved us and we'd go, "Can we go like get some wood?" And they, "Oh, sure." And they take us up to the 3rd floor and we'd get mirrors and wood. We'd take tables that were like their production tables and take hammers and like take them apart and then go into the loft and use that wood to build our loft beds. So it was really fun. But then all of a sudden I was like, I hate living in Williamsburg. I don't want to live here. I mean, I don't want to get on the subway. I don't want to get into, I need to be in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just got this thing. I want to get out. I want to get out. I have to say, if you want to talk about, one of the things of being an addict, I got to get out. I got to get out. I'm uncomfortable. I got to get out.
Yeah.
So it has its good part and also the part that I've had to look at and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But in this case, I had to get out and I just walked Manhattan and finally I found this apartment that was a little bigger than this room. But it was in Little Italy. It was on Mulberry Street between
incredible.
Spring and Prince.
Amazing.
And there wasn't
beautiful.
one right angle in the whole thing. No water came up in the I had to join a gym. I mean, it was like when my parents came to see it, they were like, "But there's only one sink." I was like, "Well, I'm only one person." It was like, the bathroom's right there. I don't need 2 sinks. So it was in a building that had a candy store in front. There was 3 candy bars there was no candy in this candy store. And it was called Lucy's Candy Store. And there was a Lucy. And she was this large, classic Italian woman. In my memory, she's knitting. Maybe she was sewing. Maybe she was, I don't know. Anyway, my parents came to visit. And I introduced her. It was like that. You had to know everybody. And I'd gotten jumped in. And Lucy said to my parents, "Don't you worry. We're keeping our eye on her."
Oh, no.
That's great.
And there were so many great stories. I really wanted to live in Little Italy. And I remember walking into the social club and, it's all these old guys. And I don't think you're supposed to walk in as a woman at all. I mean, and I walk, and there's a drinking espresso, probably the best espresso in the world.
Yeah.
And I walk in, I'm like, "Hey, you guys, do you know of any apartments?" And they all put their hand in their pockets. Like, who is this chick?
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
You know, in my
That's
there's
great.
a little hazy glow around this time in my life
Yes.
because it was early downtown New York performance art world, the kitchen and CBGB's and Club 57 and you know, just it was the years of like doing performance
Before the Gotti's were really well known.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I
killing
could
people
walk
on the
home
streets,
from
yeah.
clubs at any time of the night. I had, you know, I could go up on my roof and spy on my hookup boyfriend in his apartment. I mean, it was all like, there was a corner bar called the Spring Street Lounge that was just like all art. It was mafia during the day and then artists at night. It was the coolest bar. And,
You both seem very East Coast. You do have
I
like,
know.
you both have like
I
New
know.
York
But now I
vibes.
do feel when I'm in New York, very LA.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean,
Yeah.
Because East Coast, I mean, New York isn't New York anymore.
Yeah.
Not like it
Not-
was
But is
then.
LA's always awful, so it's always going to be, you know what I mean? Like, it
I
never
don't know,
changes.
now I almost feel like water. Like I could go anywhere. Like pour me into any glass. Though it's not true.
Yeah.
Beth,
Hi, Garrett.
thank you so much.
Hi, Garrett.
And tell us where to get the book that you did.
Oh, all the things. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, everything can be found at bethlapides.com, BETHLAPIDES. Second of all, the audiobook is available everywhere that audiobooks are, Amazon, Audible. There's places where independent bookstores you can get audiobooks too. Even your library has it. So it's everywhere, which is great. And the Uncabaret, if you're in Los Angeles, we're running currently, you may be listening to this in 2090, but here we are in 2023 and we're running at El Cid in Silver Lake. And in December, we're going to start doing shows at the Nimoy, which is Cap UCLA's new venue. And it's so beautiful.
Wow.
Is that
Yeah.
the new move or like a one-off? at
No,
the Nimoy?
we're going to do a series, one in December. Maybe you'll do January. December 16th is an unholiday show. In January, we're going to do my birthday show.
Yay!
February, we're going to be at El Cid again. March, we're going to do both El Cid and the Nimoy. And then my coaching is a company called The Infinite Creator. It's a place where we take your piles of papers, turn them into projects, and get your projects out into the world. It's very much 100% process, 100% product. And that's not possible, but that is. And I just love working with creatives. And you can find all that information also on my website. It's if you're looking for somebody, if you don't want to do it alone anymore.
Fantastic.
I love that.
That's so good.
That's great.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, guys. Oh, my God.
Lapides, everybody.
Daniel,
Yay.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.